Welcome to another edition of Tech Fireside Chats with your host, Joel Martin. Take it away, Joel.
Cheerio. Hey, Jade, how you doing today?
I'm awesome, Joel. You look pretty refreshed considering you were up late watching a debate last night.
Oh, yes. For posterity, we'll have to. We're framing where the podcast is today, so everybody knows when it happened. We're still in that, which is, I guess, is dominating the news all over the world, right?
Correct.
We have a great guest today, Jade Ebenezer, live from London. That's why we have Big Ben in the background. And I guess I should be drinking tea instead of coffee, but I'm a coffee addict, so I have to. And you are a go-to urban mobility specialist. You have a huge background, and it's the same way our debates and the election is on the news here. Another thing that I get in my inbox every single day is London. The UK micromobility technology trials are on. They're off. They're canceled. They're going in. Who's getting the RFP? And I figured, so much news about London these days, I might as well get somebody who is an expert. Is probably one of the best known guys, former head of public affairs for Cirque, which is a leading European, which was acquired. I think. I'm sorry, a little bird told me. Yes, right. They were acquired by Bird. But besides that, you have a dozen years of experience in transportation, logistics, a lot of SaaS and MaaS consulting. So I'm doing the intro, but Jade, who are you? Like, where do you fit in this ecosystem of micromobility? Maybe you can tell our listeners today.
Absolutely. Well, Joel, thanks for the opportunity. As you've said, it is certainly an exciting time in London, if not the UK. You would be aware that we have been one of the slower countries to adopt micromobility, or at least to legalize e-scooters on our roads. A big catalyst that's come into the play that's quickly moved things forward very quickly would be the COVID pandemic, which has essentially given lawmakers, regulators, national authorities a sense of urgency in order to explore new mobility solutions. And that's what we're seeing right now. So effectively what's happened is that the government has put on a trial or set up a basis for trials across the country. Effectively, these trials are or will be used to influence future primary legislation. And essentially, they're looking at the role of micromobility within the transport system in the UK, and specifically London. And as you would be aware, and I know you've been to London, we've got an amazing transport network. Regrettably, with the COVID side, what we've seen based on guidance and guidelines is that effectively what is prescribed in reality would mean that our transport network would be reduced to a capacity of just a third. And this is where you see the value in terms of micromobility and how this fits into the picture. So what you have right now is you have many local authorities across the UK that have approached DfT, which is the Department for Transport, with the aim to run trials in their areas. These local authorities then work with local operators, e-scooter operators, to introduce e-scooters on the basis that these trials are managed and more importantly, they're evaluated. As it stands right now, you've got in excess of 20 operators that have staked a claim in the UK. You've got live ongoing trials throughout the UK. And these aren't just small trials. These are trials, well, some of them at least, that have scope for 10,000 scooters. So this tells you the scale of this, which is really exciting.
I'm super excited. So my inbox gets flooded, more so than, you would think that you would see more news headlines from Italy, which is, the birthplace of Vespa and Piaggio, right? And I have a transportation background myself, and I came from that world, from two-wheel vehicles a long time ago, another lifetime. And I understand, the European mentality and the way it's seen for transportation A to B, and you take a 50cc moped everywhere. So I would think that you would see more headlines from Spain or Italy or Austria or something, right? But the reality is, maybe it's the angle here. The Americans are obsessed with what's happening in London, and every company wants in. And I see all these different technologies pushing. I see drones. We see the automated food delivery drones, you're talking about the big consumer, grocery to consumer, and especially because the way your cities, like I've been to Manchester, I've been to London, I've been to Derby, and from small towns to big cities, I could see these things working from Liverpool all the way to downtown London. Whether it's e-bikes or e-scooters or the delivery drones, you have the right infrastructure and the perfect system. I mean, you have small roads, you have people that only have to go 2-3 blocks sometimes when they get off the train. Subway. The tram. You guys have a lot of opportunity there, but there doesn't seem to be any one way. It just seems like all the way from Scotland to Ireland, everybody's doing it their own way. So maybe you have some insight, being that you were the head of Cirque, and before that you were the head of, I think you did autonomous, car sharing, right? You did a car sharing company?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so what is the path forward for this technology in the UK?
Absolutely. So I think, if we frame it and consider your initial question on why the focus on the UK.
I throw a lot of them out there, sorry.
And in my mind, it would simply be that the UK is perceived as a conservative society, and essentially for them to embrace or adopt new untested technologies is certainly something that would be of interest to nations whereby these type of technologies have not been legalized or are in mass use. I think what we've seen on the side, which is really important, is the collaboration between operators, local authorities, and government in terms of setting up these trials in a manner that's not only a safe way to do so, but also a manner that complements existing transport and infrastructure. I think the exercise would be pointless if you operated an e-scooter scheme as a standalone service. And that's where authorities see the biggest benefit of embracing this new technologies, is to simply fill in the gaps in the greater transport system. And once you have that type of network in place and you have these complementary technologies working together, essentially what you have is a happy customer. You have a happy customer.
You definitely want that. If not, you end up like the US, where cities have these problems. That's the new parent company, Bird. If not, you have those problems, and then people they kick us out, or they don't want it, or and I look at it from a computer software point of view, like the people embracing the mobile apps, embracing the whole ecosystem of transportation in your hand, right? Where's the bus going? What time of this? We work with a company called Transit Screen, right? So you can see in real time where the buses are and where the Ubers are of the world. And it's, to me, since car ownership, and you know this well, I think you were, what was the name of the company you did the car sharing?
As the Director of Business Development at Ubico. Ubico is essentially a startup that Europcar took a majority share in.
Well, where I was going with that was that what I've seen here in the US, and there you are. I saw this at the Mobile Marketing Association CMO Summit in Sonoma. It was last year, and man, it seems like a lifetime ago. I think it was Neuro that gave the presentation, CMO of Neuro, and I kept seeing, and Cadillac also put up a presentation showing how millennials and younger generations don't want to own cars, and they're embracing ride sharing. Let me take this down because I think we might make it about London. That hasn't happened there yet. Hopefully it won't happen if we get some Swift miles or some technology. Yeah, fingers crossed. I see it as the ecosystem has to be fully developed. Parking for the e-bikes, for the e-scooters, for the drones, shelters, integration with the buses, integration with the car sharing apps. I'm glad that it's being done in a very organized fashion. It's weird from an American perspective. Man, you guys are doing it the right way. You're going up, right?
I suppose for many parts we certainly are, but at the same time, there's many new learnings. You need to keep in mind that your automobile vehicle is essentially 131 years old. Your e-scooters have come to the fore over the last 2 years. It's in its infancy. The industry is in its infancy. The fact that these technologies are untested within a European landscape certainly means that there will be lots of learnings. Just recently, out of one of the bigger trials, we actually had a situation whereby the trial was paused, and specifically with regard to how vehicles were parked, concerns from a blind agency in the sense of vehicles being an obstruction, or could be a hazard in the sense of a blind person being knocked over by one. So there certainly have been learnings. These learnings, however, have been addressed very quickly, and there certainly are new measures that were put into place to deal with some of these issues. I think all over the world, and you see this right now, you've got curb parking, pavement parking. It is a real issue. And as this
we saw that one.
as this industry matures, you're going to have to see new innovation in terms of even better managing these schemes. So effectively, what the businesses have been able to show in a very, very short period of time is that there is inherent demand with regard to these new mobility solutions. In terms of the ridership numbers, it's completely off the charts. Nobody anticipated or expected such good take-up in such a short time. The only caveat being that there certainly are learnings in terms of how best to run these schemes and what is best practice. But there again, I think the operators have shown a willingness to learn, to want to engage and to want to collaborate and essentially build a long-term sustainable mobility solution.
So on that note, and let me throw this by you. How do you feel about food delivery for e-scooters? Because that's going to be, and I'd like to, here in the US, we're saying it's more equitable, right? You're creating job opportunities from the supermarket or the restaurant or the convenience store, instead of taking a car or an SUV, right? I mean, you guys have always done Vespas or mopeds. Taking an e-bike, if you're only going two blocks, right? I mean, is that something that could change the landscape in the UK?
Absolutely. And, there's been talks on Amazon right now that's on the cusp of releasing their e-cargo bike delivery system. And that shows you where we're headed, is that in order to create more livable cities, in order to facilitate better customer experiences by getting products quicker to customers without detriment to the environment, people's health, congestion and pollution, these are certainly technologies that are being adopted. There's been a number
I feel like that's the missing link. Like if you can show consumers the ROI on buying an e-scooter, or small businesses, right, for fleets. Because if you go in Milan or Rome and you see a fleet of e-bikes, Vespas branded, Domino's, Pizza Hut. Asia, it's the same thing. I've been all over Taiwan. I've been to China. I've been to Korea. You see the scooters are branded, right? They're branded, with the different KFC. They're branded, with the delivery company apps. And I have a picture in the background now of a person in Grab Food doing deliveries on an e-scooter. So I feel like the UK would adapt to this very quickly. America is very spread out. It's going to happen in cities like Austin first or Miami before it becomes a trend. But I think the UK would just embrace it wholeheartedly if you could show ROI on food delivery. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that, because I know you've done some with the software and the SaaS, and you've been involved in that back end. I mean, do you see this as a viable source of revenue?
Absolutely, and for both things, so upstream as well as downstream, I think there's certainly a situation whereby a scenario for mutual benefits exists, and leave alone the fact that many local authorities or even national governments are subsidizing green vehicles. The fact that you're able to service a clientele quicker than you would in, say, a ICE internal combustion engine than you would on an e-bike makes complete sense. And we're seeing that, and I think a day doesn't pass without me seeing somebody scoot down my road in exactly the type of vehicle that's displayed on the background of your very pretty slide. So
I'm glad you see it. It's a little harder to catch here in the States. I know it's happening on e-bikes in New York. I know it's happening in some cities, but we haven't seen brands embrace it yet. Like Uber Eats hasn't done it yet, right? Lyft hasn't done it yet. You see it in India, you see it in South America, you see it in some parts of Europe. I think Americans are a little bit slow. I think if we see the UK do it, it's going to come over immediately, because a lot of the same companies work on both sides of the pond, if you will. But I do think that if London embraces micromobility deliveries, the US is next.
Absolutely, and I think, if you consider a funny story, the CEO of Uber happens to be the chairman of a business called Delivery Hero, and Delivery Hero is one of your biggest delivery services globally. They're actually looking to
own everybody. They've bought everybody.
Indeed. That's just testament to this trend and how strong it is. I think, on the European side, we certainly are a little different in the sense of the density in our cities, the dedicated infrastructure, which makes such services easier to launch and to operate. So from that perspective, I mean, it's certainly fireworks. Not a day goes by where you don't see an operator trying to transition or pivot into deliveries. And we've seen that firsthand on the Uber app. And we've seen that in the results. We've seen what a contribution from their traditional ride-hailing segment was to their delivery business. And that's testament to exactly what you've just said. It is a game changer. It's here to stay. It's going to essentially receive more traction, and it's a winner. I think, as we discussed early on, upstream as well as downstream, there's opportunities for mutual benefit from a branding perspective, from an environment perspective, from a creating jobs perspective, in the sense that one would not have to outlay thousands upon thousands of pounds to buy a vehicle in order to do a job, but could simply get a rebate or grant through government for an e-vehicle, namely an e-bike, to facilitate.
I love it. You're talking about building that ecosystem, right?
Yeah, that's it.
No, and we want to be a part of that. We have very similar backgrounds. I know you've done software, you've done SaaS, you're doing OEMs, and I love seeing the opinion of a specialist in somebody who's an expert in their field to see. So, what is the future? What do you think the next 6 months, next year holds for the UK? What's going to happen in Big Ben Town?
I think, the reality and the writing on the wall is we need change in order to meet demand. Globalization, urbanization, the COVID pandemic, which we might not know how long is going to go for, certainly makes a convincing argument that we need to adopt new technologies and new ways of doing things around transport. What we've learned very quickly is that we can leverage these technologies in the right environment to bolster the ecosystems within a greater transport network. And for me personally, if you are creating a product or bringing a product to market, that product needs to be focused on the customer. So if you take it back a step, me as an e-scooter operator wants to ensure that you're part of a greater transport network, teaming up with public authorities, public bodies, public transport bodies, and ultimately being part of that ecosystem. And within that ecosystem is where you're actually able to create the right user experience and create the right journeys. I think the reality is you're not going to take an e-scooter out on a trip to the country, whereas you're not going to take a 4x4 SUV into the center of London. So the right vehicle for the right trip at the right time is key in all of this.
I agree. You just hit it on the nail, right? That's the part. You got to make it. It's got to be as efficient as possible. Well, you're a subject matter expert in this field, and I really do appreciate your time for joining us. Any last thoughts, like COVID? You're giving us the future. What is it going to be essential? Micromobility part of the new society? Do you see it changing things?
I think already what you've seen is the stickiness in terms of the
uptake. That's a good term.
Services. And what you're starting to see from very early data is return users, and more importantly, users that have not previously used these types of schemes. And that's really important, because if you've got that stickiness, that shows that demand and that want to use the product is there. And that's really important in building a long-term sustainable business. So hopefully what we see is good, promising results out of these trials that lead to a change in primary legislation early next year, which leads to more viable green transport solutions in not only London, but the rest of the world.
Yeah, I'm all about that too. I'm going to put up, you know what, let me put away, it's your LinkedIn. You prefer that for people to contact you if they want?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me put that up real quick. Let's, if you want to reach Jade, here's his LinkedIn. It's just Jade Ebenezer, and former head of the UK and Ireland for CERC for public affairs, right? You guys did a great job. You were acquired by Bird. You've done car sharing apps, SaaS. You can see his full profile there. And you're consulting. You're doing OEMs now. You're doing several companies.
That's great. Yeah, and that's how vibey the industry is, and everybody wants to get a piece of the pie. Transportation at the moment is blowing up. Where else would you want to be?
Not literally. That's good. So, and we love it. I love it. And I think you're one of the best experts out there. So I just wanted to bring that to my followers, and thanks so much for your time, man. I know it's a little later. I hope you have a good dinner, and we'll stay in touch.
Brilliant. Thank you for the opportunity, Joel. Much appreciated.
And yeah, I keep looking at Big Bend there, and I keep thinking of the last time I was there with my grandfather, and we actually walked over the bridge. It was great. Great memories of your country. You guys stay safe, all right?
Awesome. Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yes, bye.
Thanks for watching, and join us next week on Tech Fireside Chats.